I'm going to introduce our panel of experts in just a moment, and I'll just introduce the topic. Obviously, you've heard from Aji today, and Aji's just talked to you about AI in a CX context and in quite a level of depth about all of the different disparate AI technologies that sit under the umbrella of the term AI. And he probably talked to you a little bit about how they've been applied within Chattermill specifically. But we're going to go a bit broader than that today with our panel. And we're going to be talking about AI and data in CX. And we're going to be doing a little bit of myth busting along with some of the things that we think are really promising to get from there. And it's not going to be me answering these questions. I'm delighted to introduce our panel with Chloe Ward and also Rufus Weston. And I'm going to ask Chloe and Rufus to introduce themselves in a minute. Thank you very much. And just a quick round of applause for Chloe and Rufus. And so thank you very much. And Chloe, would you start with introducing yourself, please?
Thanks a lot. Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe. I lead the customer insights team for Uber ComOps in EMEA. ComOps is the support function. So I'll talk a little bit about using AI in support and also the relationship with Chattermill.
Hi, I'm Rufus Weston. I'm a long in the tooth insights professional that started with like paper surveys, developed into digital, and now really interested in customer feedback. My last two jobs were Nike, and then prior to that I was at Just Eat, where I brought Chattermill into the into the building as a very small newly formed company. So excited to see this wonderful flowering company now.
Sorry, and I'll awkwardly take that mic from me. Thank you, Rufus and Chloe, for that introduction. And yes, and my name's Luke Moore. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Chattermill. I joined about 3 years ago. I've worked in AI for unstructured text analytics for about just over a decade. And actually, Rufus was one of the first people that I spoke to about Chattermill coming in. And he said wonderful things about Chattermill then, which was a big part of why I'm here. But we're here to talk about a broader subject area than just Chattermill's application of AI. And I'm going to start by just asking Chloe and Rufus to comment on one topic in particular at quite a broad level, and we'll start to weave our way down. But the topic is essentially they're very different organizations, Nike, Just Eat, Uber. And actually one of the things that at Chattermill we do is we think deeply about the use cases that are applicable in different industries. One of the things that becomes apparent is that if you're a Spotify, for example, your interactions with customers are very much within that box, the application interaction. But if you're Uber and Nike, it could be very different. And so I'm going to ask Chloe and Rufus maybe to talk about what some of those differences might be, just as a kind of warm up into the conversation. So again, Chloe, I'll come to you first. And maybe just thinking about Uber, are they in a tight box or does it go beyond that? And how has CX strategies differed slightly for you and Uber?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think Uber is quite an interesting use case because we're, well, at least in the mobility side, working in a two-sided marketplace. And delivery, we have 3 different user types sort of working in the marketplace. We're always looking at customer feedback data to understand how we can optimize like the service and the platform for our users, but we have very little control over how our users interface with one another. And essentially, our drivers are delivering a service to our riders. Our couriers are delivering a service to our eaters. And so we can't control that customer interaction. And so we have to be a bit clever with how we look at customer feedback and customer data to see how we can, optimize how we work with our customers, but also provide as much advice and control over the interaction that happens out there in the marketplace where when we're not in the room or we're not in the car to really manage it.
Yeah, I love that. And hopefully if you can hear me, I'll actually leave the mic with Irene and Rufus. Basically, I love what Chloe was saying there. There is that digital and real world intersect, and the organizations that you're from might be different to Uber in that respect, or maybe more similar to Rufus, your experiences at Nike and Just Eat. Lovely to hear from you.
Yeah, similar to Chloe, I suppose Just Eat was a 2-3-sided marketplace. I think what I noticed is the data was very different. And I really noticed, and I guess building on what Aji was saying about, the training sets that the AI is working on, we really found that actually it was far easier to get customers to talk lyrically about their experience than restaurants or couriers. And that made it very different and of different quality between those two sort of or 3 areas. I think the other major part, which I've learned since coming to Nike, is how the direct side and the partnerships really works as well. So the governance around being able to actually control and see the customer experience in partner sites or partner retail experiences is just very, very different, and so much more limited. And so you can kind of see why people go direct to consumer almost for that reason, and read that reason alone. But it was a real eye opener, really, to see the paucity of partner data that you have in when you're sort of working with retail partners.
I like that point, because I think, again, in the different worlds that Chloe and Rufus are inhabiting right now in Uber and Nike, we said we talk about AI and data, and I think you're just touching on a point about the availability of data. I guess a lot of what we're trying to do is surface valuable insights. We're trying to share them with different people, but you've got it's not a blind spot in Nike, is it? Or is it something that you're working on trying to improve?
No, it's not completely blind. It's just has much more challenges. And this is when we're, it's lovely hearing about how the language models are trained, and I learned a lot in the previous half hour. But ultimately, what I care about is what is the quality of insights, and what is the quality of customer experience data, and how I can then communicate that to stakeholders. And as much as large language models are important and the way that they're constructed, ultimately the quality of the data is the thing that we're looking for first and foremost.
So it changes it. And actually, just to continue, Chloe, I was going to ask you if you had any comments similarly on the data theme. Availability of data, is it where you want it to be for the use cases that you're running right now?
We have a lot more data from our eaters and our riders because there's more of them. But actually soliciting feedback, I think, from our restaurant partners and our drivers, we've had quite a lot of success there, because it's in their best interest to give us feedback, because we can then enhance how we work with them. So the data definitely differs in volume and the type of data. But yeah, we've gotten rich feedback from those partners as well.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that Chattermill we've tried to figure out, as we're not inside the brands that you all are, is what are the use cases that have most value? And then we look at the prescribed data sources that go with it. And often we find that there's challenges in the data collection strategy because there's limitations. And as you were saying, Rufus, and you were saying, Chloe, that's obviously the main ingredient that impacts the outcomes. And so we tried to develop a more use case-led approach to sort of think about where the data could come from. And I know I actually talked about voice data today. We have launched voice data as an application. It's obviously one of those large volume sources that contextually rich in insight and could be very useful in certain situations. We're trying to find that agnostic position around data. I'm interested, just before we go a little broader than Chattermill, if you've got any stories around the way that you use data. It's really an expansion on the way you describe your role in terms of feedback that you used in action. Any stories from Uber, Chloe, about how you've done that with NPS data, for example? Rufus, about to you next.
Sure. So a bit of context on our NPS program with Chattermill. It's a global program. We get over 30,000 responses every month. And Chattermill help us by ingesting, well, they do a lot of things to help us, but one of the key benefits is they ingest our customer open-ended feedback and then synthesize that into structured themes that we can then use to kind of assess different areas of the customer experience. And there are multiple ways that we can use that data, but I think some of the most important are when we launch a new product or a new feature, we can look at the NPS data to see if that product or feature is coming up organically in customer mentions. And this has actually enabled us in a number of cases to find bugs or unintended experiences and actually fix them before they became a bigger, more impactful problem. But I think also with the NPS data, where it's probably most impactful is when we assess that experience data alongside platform and marketplace data so that we have a holistic view of the customer experience and we can see if we make a change in the business that we think is going to optimize the experience for, let's say, our riders, what is the impact on drivers and what is the impact on our business as well. And so by getting that holistic view, we're able to make the right trade-offs and make the right decisions.
I love that. And I will just, before you pass over to Rufus, I'll just remind you, if you have questions as the panel are talking, just pop your hand up. We'd love to take your questions as we go. We'll make sure there's questions at the end. But if you're thinking of it in the moment, something Chloe's just said, Rufus just said, inspires you and you want to hear a bit more about it, or you want to ask a question, just raise your hand up and I'll keep an eye out. Rufus, if you would giving us your insight inside, a bit more expansion on your role at Nike, but also just any way you think is relevant, where feedback to action has been, you've got some examples, pick the challenges and the successes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, I always say as a sort of client side insight person is how great data analytics can be like a force for evangelism within an organization. And I really found that at Just Eat, which was very kind of commercially driven, and actually looked at customer experience text data, especially with some sort of like, that's just qual. We don't really know what to do with it. It's very difficult to action. So actually a lot of the stuff that I was doing early on was to validate the value of the CX data in the first place. So actually putting it alongside NPS data, churn data, and commercial data, you're able to see the value of certain bits of information. So one of the things that actually Mikhail's partner Dimitri did was to correlate the text data with some of our churn and like lifetime value information for our customers. And you could really see that certain bad customer experiences would have a really negative effect on the lifetime value of our customers. And that was one of the rallying cries that we used to say, like, this is a problem. And actually you can then dive into the specifics of that and give the color around that and tell stories with it. So it was really valuable to like combine that hard commercial data with the CX data to make a case for it.
Yeah, it's interesting because that topic seems to come up in most companies we talk to, where people are trying to find the ways to combine the data to bring the business case for action. Because even though, I guess, taking action is the next big challenge after the insight is found, and you have to be a real operator, I suppose, with the support of an augmented data that gives you those hard correlations, or as hard as you can get them, to really make that impact. Is anyone in the audience at an advanced stage where they're doing something like that already? They're doing some of the things that Rufus was touching on, maybe combining it with other more commercial data to make cases? Or is anyone intrigued by that and not at that stage and got any questions for the panel about how you get to making those kind of business cases to get the support for the action? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Miguel. I work at HelloFresh. So at HelloFresh, we've been using data in order to understand, for example, what are the impacts and metrics like churn rate or pause rate, because can pause our subscription as well. Sorry. And also then we use the data from Chattermill in order to prioritize projects across our business, and then figure out pain points that customers mention. So basically that's something that we've been using.
Yeah, I love that. And if anyone on panel also wants to ask Miguel any questions, please go ahead. But does anyone feel that they're not at that stage and would like to, are intrigued about how do you get there? Again, please shout out with any questions as you go along. Miguel, that's a great example. I love that at HelloFresh. I think you've been using AI for CX, or being customer-centric as an organization by design, probably since your inception. Some companies are trying to make that change. I wonder if in our panel, have you any experience, or yourselves, or with colleagues, or with other companies, or even conferences you to, where people are trying to make that cultural change in the business? Do you feel like Uber, for example, was born that way, and be customer-centric from that, or have you had to make any hard steers to get your arguments won around being more customer-centric?
I think customer centricity is in the fabric, and the products and services that we design always have the customer at heart. But influencing business partners based on customer experience data alone is very, very difficult. And so I wouldn't say face the same challenge, but need to go through the same process of always tying customer experience back to the data or the metrics of the team that we're trying to influence to make the right change for customers. So if we notice there's an issue with the product or a chance to improve the product, we need to speak in the language of the product team and not share, as you said, Rufus, qualitative data, with some anecdotes from customers about what could be improved. But actually, if we did improve this, what would be the impact on supply hours or, something measurable about the user experience? So as I say, whilst customer centricity is something that we lead with, we kind of need to still back that up with more business related insights.
And has that been something you've been able to do more recently? I don't even mean it's a specific context of Chattermill, just.
Or has it always been something you had to do since you've been in one big? You had to bring the hard data within to make any changes, or has there just been a higher demand first for more hard facts here?
It's a good question. I think since I've been at Uber, which is just over 3 years now, our teams are getting better at connecting with our business partners in operations and product and kind of building out that holistic view of customer experience. Previously, we would look at a lot of support data and see how that was impacting support processes, but there was a lack of integration across teams. And so, we are building out that muscle, but I would say there's still room to grow there.
But you have, in effect, been able to get decisions made using those combined data sets. And that's a great success. I don't know, lots of time you hear at conferences, people are trying to get to that stage. They've gathered the insight, they've got the technology to support it, and then they're at that sort of pause just ahead of being able to get the company or the team around a decision making. Rufus, you could carry a similar point as Chloe tipped at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe you were using a Nike example, because I think one of the things that I have found from sort of bouncing around client organizations is there's always a sort of organizational bias in the company that you work for, whether it be towards sort of brand-led, creative, storytelling, qualitative type information, or maybe like slightly more hard-nosed commercial type organizations, which are a bit more focused on quant and big data. And I really found that actually at Nike, it was much more the former. So it was much more about storytelling, customer experiences, and telling a story about our customers that got stuff done, which is, almost polar opposites from something like Just Eat. So actually it was, the great thing about this data is that you can come at it from both sides. You can essentially use the hard-nosed, commercial data and correlate it with, churn rates or whatever. But also you can say, look, this person is having a really crappy experience. We need to go fix it. The way that we were doing it sometimes with at Nike is actually taking it to store representatives. So using the NPS data and then having conversations with store people as well to improve their performance, to see how their customers saw the world.
Love it. I love the way that permeates. And the storytelling point is interesting because we're saying, you need this hard quant data, especially for an organization that's maybe more commercially hard-nosed, perhaps in the way they think about quant, but they can never bring the story that qualitative data can bring, I guess, is one of the things that, I'm hearing from what you're saying. And I think this I think is one of the most important points, anyone picking up the challenge of becoming more customer centric. And actually, Chattermill, we developed our own maturity model for us to try and figure out, again, how customer centric can this organization be right now? There's actually something you can do, like a quiz online. We've got a sort of mild version of it. But basically, you go on there and you can fill out a few questions. It will place you in a box, essentially, of gut feel all the way up to leading, where you could extrapolate all the benefits of experience-led growth as a strategy, driving positive word-of-mouth growth, driving customer loyalty, but setting the field for cross-sell and upsell. And then also looking at the operational efficiencies that Chloe was talking about as well as that. But the organization, you have to be ready to do that, right? And there are lots of things that could get in the way. As you were saying, I think, have you seen any changes in your organization trying to actively become more, allow the insights to flow more easily? Has it been a top-down approach? And I know, for example, there's one customer of ours in the UK, Eon Next. Eon have decided that in their niche area, their nearest competitor has technology advantage, and that will remain theirs. There's no way to catch up. So they've made being the customer experience the competitive advantage they're going after. It's a huge amount of support from the top down.
and enables them to almost start redesign the whole organization around being customer centric. But for other companies, they're sitting in DNA from the inception, and I guess in the very distant last, Nike with a bit more gut feel than very brands that. Have you seen active things to try and break down and the silos? We decided to break down the culture to be led by the insights and the stories. What happening recently, and maybe come to you best represent those out of like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose at really big organizations like Nike, top down helps, but it can't drive everything. And so we have always gone team by team, First World War battlefield style. It's a slog, and you have to, bring the customer to people who aren't always willing. And as you say, like a kind of brand-led storytelling approach works for many departments, but not all of them as well. There's some very commercial, hard-nosed people at Nike, as I'm sure you can imagine. So actually being able to nuance your story team by team is definitely the route to success, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And Chloe, you may have seen challenges, but you did describe it as maybe it was in the DNA or it was in the fabric of the company to some extent. But have you seen any sort of active, sort of changes mandated from top down? I mean, it's changed this way, or has it been a backfield team by team approach that we just talking about?
I would say there's been a top-down and then like a sideways directive. So within our org, we're always encouraged to be the customer advocates. And I think we're uniquely positioned in support such that we are the team that is in touch with customers on a day-to-day basis. And we hear exactly, some of the pain points that they're experiencing. And so we're always encouraged to feed those insights back to the business because we have that proximity and a lot of our business partners don't. And so that is a push from leadership to the support orgs, is to give those insights to your business partners. What I've seen over time is our business partners ask for those insights more and more. So they recognize that, we can provide that qualitative lens or maybe that deeper level of insight that they're not getting from their performance or marketplace data, and will ask us to lead with that customer view.
What do you do to educate other business partners on to what its customers interested in and how they can use this data? Because I can imagine you get the question of, you have this insights, it's whatever I want to get.
Would you mind telling us where you're from as well? Because that'd be interesting to people. No, that'd be great. Just for the bit.
I'm working at Canem Bicycle.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. That's a great question. I don't know if both you would like to answer it.
I think the reality is that sometimes you do need to come up with the insight that supports the point that your business partner is trying to make, because the point that they're trying to make is probably founded on a lot of data and work that they've done. And if we have access to that insight, we should be able to produce it for them. And it should be coming up in our data as well, such that we're not, picking through a haystack to find this particular anecdote. If that were the case, then I would be a little bit more reluctant. But yeah, I think we can also provide them insights based on the leading indicators that we're seeing. And that's what we do more and more, is saying, hey, we're getting these indicators in support that this particular experience is broken or not doing so well. And then how would we influence our business partners to drive change there? Similar to what you were saying, Rufus, like storytelling is becoming critically important, and the power of hearing a customer talk about their pain, it's amazing what that can do. And in support, we have access to a lot of that because customers come to us when they have a problem. Using phone calls where we have customers calling in is so powerful to influence our partners that they need to make a change.
Nothing like hearing it direct.
I'd say a couple of things. So one is, that initial question that starts off as a, can you help me make this pitch to my boss or whatever it was, is often the start point in a conversation and a partnership that can go in multiple different directions, and very often ends in a point that wasn't where you originally had that question come from. So I think if you are true partner, what you were saying as well, Chloe, like if you're a true partner with those stakeholders and really tease out what is the underlying motive for those questions, I think that can really help. The other part of it is, using kind of mixed methods. So the needle in the haystack type point. One of the things that I have really encouraged us to do is to go on safari and walk a mile in the customer's shoes. So it's all very well us taking this data to our stakeholders, but actually the best thing and the most persuasive thing is for them to experience it themselves, whether it be store visits, customer safaris, home visits, whatever it is. The best thing that you can do is to get your business partners in on the act and experiencing it themselves.
Those are great answers to that cover what you were hoping for. They're fantastic. I've got some thoughts on that, and then we've got a question just over here. I loved Chloe, you talked about the point about people coming to you for questions. That's what's increased. And then, and I think, you added the storytelling element is critical for both of you. And it reminds me of the early days of social media analytics. I remember EE built a room where the room changed color every time the sentiment changed, just to draw the business in, to be aware if there was an opportunity to ask business questions. Is that what is changing? Are people just more aware that you can answer business questions where you're sitting? Why are the questions increasing? What do you think's changed? And then we'll take this question next.
No, it's a good question. I think after building that relationship and sharing those insights, there becomes an appetite for them. And as I said, we can be very powerful in our storytelling by leveraging voice of customer. When we pass that, those insights onto our business partners, they can also be very powerful in influencing their next business partners. So I imagine there's quite a pull coming that way. But just generally, we need to be increasingly aware of the experience that we're delivering to our customers. I mean, when Uber launched, it was a magical product and we had no issue getting people onto the platform. The demand was great. Now we have a lot of competition. We have an economy that doesn't always facilitate people, ordering food or, taking a ride for convenience. So we have to be a little bit more aware of what customers want and need. So it's kind of that the demand for that is driving.
That's great. If you'd like to.
Powerfully aware that the sort of the exponential rise of questions from your stakeholder group is not normally associated with an exponential rise in your headcount in teams. So there is a tension there actually, and I think that whilst we love getting questions, there are sort of problems that come alongside it. And, without, I love the democratizing effect that Chattermill can have in an organization, because, you give them the dashboards, they're pretty easy to use. And suddenly a lot of people have access to the stream of customer comments and complaints and the high praise that comes alongside with it. So, I think democratization is an interesting thing. There is always going to be a role for insights teams. Synthesis is, the way forward, and as you say, the storytelling. There's also, I suppose, we're talking about AI here. There is the ability to now synthesize some of these insights into, something that is easily available for teams. So, we've been working on those sorts of areas at Nike. And, that sometimes helps, but I am nervous when there isn't an insight person, an insight human to help validate the insights that come through, the synthesis of some of these things that come through AI.
I love that. I'm going to come back to you actually on that point, because it will take us into the general application of AI, and I'm going to remember that point. And the gentleman there had a question, so I'd just like to come to you if you let us know your name and where you're from as well. That'd be great.
Nabil from Booking.com. Just wanted to kind of touch upon the storytelling side of things, but mainly from a partner-facing perspective, and crucially kind of how you balance at scale, crucially, kind of take the insights, but keep it relevant at scale for partners, because that's the tricky part, right? Its segmentation is really different from
really heavy tailored communication, and kind of more see how that kind of works on for both of you, I suppose, from a partner facing perspective.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. That is the insight team's secret sauce, I think, and not always something that historically, analytics and research teams have been particularly good at. I think it comes with a great deal of training, and it comes with a great deal of angst, because people's biases are towards, especially in research insight analytics teams, towards data and big data and wanting to show more and more and more. Actually a lot of what storytelling is about cutting down to essential messages. So that isn't something that is necessarily easy to do, and actually takes time. And the thing that I would say is, where great insight teams work well is in spending more time thinking about communication and less time about data collection. And I think actually that's, coming back to AI again and data collection and some of these CX platforms, actually a lot of that work is now automated. So you don't need to worry about some of those things. I mean, you do need to worry about it a bit, but much less than you did. And so actually it frees up time, I think, to have good conversations with partners and to really hone what your messages are. So no amount of effort is too great, I think.
If you'd like to answer the question, though, you can have to answer.
I don't think I can add much to that.
That questions. Yeah, you don't want to answer. That's fine. No. Thank you very much. So what I thought. Oh, sorry, there's a person here.
Yeah. My name is Koen. I work at KLM now, with the airline. I wonder if you give your insights, people to customers, but you also have insights of local applications and local departments. But this is what I'm struggling with. I make Twerk have an planning tool, and it's super hard to get information, to get insights of how they're performing, because they work with Excel sheets, they work with horrible things out of the 90s. You have the same bit. You have the same issue, or you just go for customer data and you're also a bit blind on the internal data?
I'm going to say, with every question, just let us know if you would like to answer it. So just, you want to answer it, Chloe?
No, very honestly, I work in the world of customer insights. So no, we don't work a lot with performance data.
Similarly, it's hard. It's a hard one to answer, but I guess it comes back to what we were saying right at the start, which is, the quality of information that you get is actually the most important, and no amount of machine learning and AI can really help unless you get that better information at the start. So, focus on building up right from the ground up what kind of information you're getting, and then, the rest is gravy.
Now I'm going to bring us back to the general subject now, AI. Outside of Chattermill, sadly for Chattermill, but there are other AIs available, etc. And just ask you, there was a point you made, Rufus. I'm going to come to Chloe first on this section. There was a point you just made about the ways you're thinking about using AI to gather knowledge, sort of distribute it. I know, Chloe, you've got the MPS side of things, and you've also got the support side of things. How are you using any forms of AI? Also, you hear that was in the general applications where there might be a touch on operational efficiency opportunities and things like that. And this is where I think it'd be interesting for people to hear a bit about your perspectives on promise, because no one's going to give up on potential and make your reality. Is that great?
Sure. We're now leveraging AI within Uber, both to enhance, obviously, operational efficiency. That's not a dirty word or anything. I think we can all say that, that's part of the benefit of AI. But also it's really critically going to help us improve customer experience. There are a few tools that I will talk about, and they cover operational efficiency, and they also cover direct customer-facing experience. So the first tool I'll mention is our AI automation assistant. So a lot of simple support queries today are handled by automation. I'm sure everyone in the room has gone through the support, click this node, this node, this node. And the reality is, with automated support, it's prone to not giving you the right outcome or the resolution that you require. Either it doesn't have the kind of its predefined set of options, it doesn't have the exact use case that you're after, or you get stuck in the loop. So the LLMs that we're leveraging today are optimizing automated support so that firstly, the user can input open text to describe their problem, and then the AI will interpret that and hook the user directly up with the FAQ that's most relevant to them. So the support they receive is faster, and it actually gets them a more relevant answer. The other thing that AI will do is if you happen to come into support through the wrong access point, it will actually understand your query and send you off in the right direction so that you're not getting an answer completely irrelevant to your query. So that's something that's improving our operations and also then having an impact on customer experience. The next one I wanted to share is our AI agent assistance tool. And this is something that Uber is building internally. And it's a tool that will enable our agents to better investigate and resolve customer support queries. Typically, when a user arrives at agent support, the agent will select from a series of saved responses and then customize those responses based on the user's specific situation. What our AI tool will do, will evaluate what the agent has prepared to send back to the customer and then offer thoughtful suggestions on how that content could be improved to make it either more clear or more empathetic or provide better instructions on how the customer should follow up. So that one's sort of improving our internal efficiency because agents are able to deliver a better outcome, but also do that in a more efficient way without having to sit and stare at their response and evaluate themselves. Have I got the message right? And then the last one, actually, this is a tool I'm pretty excited about. This was announced just last month that we're launching an AI assistant tool that's really targeting our electric vehicle drivers. So this is a tool that will be powered by ChatGPT 4.0, and it will be part of the driver app, and drivers will be able to come to this tool to ask questions like, what's the best EV out on the market, or where do I go to charge my electric vehicle? And this is really important because it's in line with our commitment to sustainability and our electrification targets. We need to make it as easy as possible for users to inform themselves about EVs. And I'm just excited because, this is going to launch early next year, make that information readily accessible. The tool will continuously be updated with information and therefore be able to provide responses that are really relevant to the driver themselves based on their city, based on their needs and their usage, and also based on the tax benefits that they might receive based on the city that they're in for converting to EVs. So I think this is a great collaboration that we can start powering up our platform with tools like GPT.
I love it. And I'm going to ask you to hold your thought on the other side of the fence, because you're doing some of these things in real world. I'd love for the audience to hear your experiences of where they come up to in terms of your expectations, where you can go, but I'll ask you to hold that door. And Rufus, if you'd share with us any ways you're using generative AI or other AI in use cases that make sense for Nike or just Steve.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Nike actually completely locked down ChatGPT and AI through the organization, so you can't go to the site from a Nike computer. I don't know whether other people have that same experience. So it's there, and it's been experimented with, but in a very controlled environment. From an insight point of view, where I've seen it and where I've been talking to vendors, I think there's sort of two big opportunities. One is in collection, going back to that point about actually improving the kind of quality of data. So I'm really excited about some of the conversational research tools that are around for actually eliciting much better answers from customers. I think the days of the crappy survey with like 20 options in it are numbered, I hope. I've been, having to deal with it for too many years. I hope that, conversational AI is going to really help, get much better feedback and sort of qual at scale in that. I think it's going to be a big opportunity there. The second thing which we have been experimenting with is like synthesis, and this has come back to, I'm repeating myself a bit here, but just improving how we synthesize our knowledge base. So using AI tools to look across the millions and millions of research and insight reports that we've uploaded into a single place, and it being able to synthesize and bring together the most relevant and most interesting information.
I love that. And I'd like to come back to you, Chloe, because now to talk about the other side of it as well, and then back to you again in a moment, Rufus.
I remember in the prep, thank you very much. In the prep, when we had a very brief chat, I remember you two were both chuckling about some of the other views you had on what was currently going on with use of generative AI, and I seem to only talk about a lot. I hope that I was coming about session. But Klarna, that's it. But in general, Chloe, your views on the hopes and the dreams for AI, and we talk about some of the things that you're planning to use it for, and then your expectations of where you think we're at.
Sure. The discussion we had around Klarna was they recently came under fire for mentioning that their support was powered by AI when in actual fact it was just one of those automations that I spoke to. A pretty streamlined one, but automation nonetheless. And I think that there are probably still some misconceptions around what AI does and how it works out there. So that's one thing. But in terms of some of the challenges or the hopes and dreams that we have for AI, I think we're still very much in the era of rubbish in, rubbish out. And the models that we're building today require a lot of iteration, a lot of manual review. In the world of support, there are thousands, millions of reasons a customer might come to support, and therefore an effective AI tool needs to have all the information at its disposal to answer those support, and then also be able to navigate correctly through the support process. So that takes a lot of time and a lot of manual review.
Yeah. So that's one of the things you think is still a current reality.
Absolutely. We will, I think, for the foreseeable future, spend still a lot of manual effort on feeding the right information and training our models. I don't see a point in the future where we will rely purely on models to either generate insights that are reliable or certainly handle customer support.
I remember you used the words like augmentation, of the people.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a general sense of fear when AI came out because it was very unknown, but a lot of people thought, okay, well, what does this mean for me in my job? And that sentiment was very, very real amongst Uber and the support agents as well. What we very quickly realized is that there is no replacement for humans and agents in customer support. And the most effective we will be in the future is if we seamlessly integrate AI to power up our agents and can ensure that they can do their job better, but using AI kind of as a partner rather than as a replacement.
Thank you very much. And Rufus, your first.
The last presentation, and I'm aware actually that we're now in the way of your drinks, so we'll give up. I really took that creatively, confidently wrong. I'm going to use that when I go back to work. It's exactly how I've been. Everyone's had bad experience with AI, and I think that is a real watch out. And I think actually, in terms of actually that we were talking about storytelling and the synthesization of research and insight. I have been really fairly unimpressed with what has come out. It depends on exactly the audience. I sometimes say 7 out of 10, but I think sometimes it's more like 6 out of 10 or even 5 out of 10 in terms of actually what comes out when you try and synthesize data into reports through AI. And I say, apart from the chat, well, no, Chattermill, I think like I'm talking about synthesizing it into an actual report and bringing it. So this is less about like the text analytics and more about the sort of final deliverables. And I think they're not there yet, and maybe they never will be. That leads me, with to have hope for having a job in a few years.
We need to give our panel the rest, so we need to give you a breather. So I've just got one more question for our panel, and then maybe it could, and we're able to, and you had a question, we might be able to squeeze one in, but there is drinks, so you can do that there. My last question is going to be, just give you thinking about it, and we'll take this question first, but just get you thinking about it. What do you think the potential is for the future? So give us your back to the future scenario, being there, come back, and then tell us your book each holes. To have a thing about that in the back of your mind, but we'll take this gentleman's question.
Oh, is it okay if I ask the question?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hi, this is Hussein. I'm from Bersuni. I guess people know us as Oak Philips Domestic Appliances. I have a question. Rufus, you mentioned earlier about the democratizing the data also, and we're giving access to everyone in the company, and sometimes people can also use it and with mistakes. And at the end, people working in the insights team, job becomes more and more a support agent for the business to help get this data that they need using these democratized tools, and can also become very hard to track the actions that they take using the data that we provide as insights team and provide the value of the team of the insights. So I just wanted to understand, like, what do you think is the best way to also motivate your team and create the value while the data is now accessible by everybody, can be used, but how do we, track those actions and provide, but pull our value to the company?
What a hellish scenario. I think that it comes down to your skills as a insight person. I think I like democratizing for like tactical and general teams. I think when you start giving license to democratize data and that goes up to the board, then I would get really worried as well. And so I think your job as an insight person is actually to control the narrative. And ultimately, it's, the third time I've said it, it's about storytelling and actually bringing together actually a definitive view of what the customer experience is right now. And then letting people drill down into that through that democratized data into the subcategories and sub-themes and other implications of it. But you need to be able to control the sort of master level narrative of what the situation is with the customer experience.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give our panel a break now, but last thoughts, anything you think, Chloe, that your wildest hopes and dreams AI could you want to deliver, it can be completely bad, it can be very realistic, something.
I'm going to be very realistic here. No, I do have high hopes for how we can continue integrating AI into Uber support. I think one of the benefits in the not so distant future is having AI help us really power up back-end support. And we're exploring ways that we can use AI to continuously feed back to our agents on their performance, help us with things like quality audits, optimizing content, and providing real-time feedback so that agents can see, exactly how they're doing and how to continuously improve what they offer to our customers. So I am hopeful, but I also expect that this is going to be a reality fairly soon.
I love that, and it sticks with your theme of augmenting people, and people still want to be very central. Thanks, Corey.
I have no idea. I would say I did hear conversational AI is definitely the way forward. I did hear that they're now starting to understand what whales are talking about. So I want to have a conversation with my cats in 15 years' time. That's what I'm going for.
I'd love that. I love that's some realistic and maybe realistic, but yet fanciful ideas. I just want to say a huge thank you to Chloe and Rufus for all of their energy. It's been really, really incredible. Yeah, definitely a great conversation. So thank you so much.
And also thank you to all of you as well for attending. And I'm going to just, before you leave your seat, just remind you that this is part of the Chattermill community, getting to meet great people like Chloe and Rufus and each other, gathering with us afterwards. There is a virtual roundtable coming up to talk about unlocking the value of your customers' full data on the 3rd of December. This is the panel. People from Chattermill, feel free to log into that when that comes around. And the last thing to tell you, we're also extending our warm welcome to the product family within any organisation that's working with Chattermill or not working with Chattermill. And so we're going to do something specifically for people in product roles, just to unlock how the application can be used for that. But that's it. We're so grateful to Chloe and Rufus again, and to all of you for coming. I hope you enjoy a drink. You can stick around and you get to share in this community. Thank you so much again. Thanks so much.